Hello,
Mm.
everyone. Thank you all for being here for our monthly art craft Ask Me Anything session. And today our guest is Jessica Templin King, who we've worked together on a couple of commercials, but she also works on the video unit for SNL. Funny, chaotic, chaos, and I always love hearing Jess's stories. So today you're going to get to hear some of those stories. And Jess, I'll pass it over to you if you want to get started by just kind of talking about how you came into your career and what your path was.
Okay. I feel like I'm supposed to have something prepared, and I don't, but I
It's
can
okay,
sort
it's
of just be,
casual.
I can just be honest about it. I was saying to Cheyenne before we started, like, I don't know if my path is how it, like, w what is expected. I just know that I can't tell you exactly how I got where I am, or why. But I started in the industry. I think this is probably important. I had a completely other career. I worked in social work. I worked in law enforcement. I worked in the New York City shelter system. I had a degree in psychiatric social work and worked with like people that had no sense of reality. And what I think is funny now is that there's like very much a connection to what I do now. You know, we are existing in a space most of the time that isn't real, right? Like we're creating something new that isn't real. And I'm managing a lot of personalities that all think what they need from me is the most important thing, and that's very much the same as having like a big client list in a in a social work environment. Um, I left that I left that world mostly because I was just never going to be able to survive in New York on the salary. That's just the truth. And I sort of floundered for a little while trying to figure out what that was going to look like. Can you still hear me? I took out one of my
Yes.
headphones because the noise canceling was making me feel funny. Um, anyway, I tried a couple things. I floundered around a little bit. I started working for a company that did interactive exhibits for museums, and I was producing those. And I found that the elements of that production that I enjoyed were less about the technology and more about the working with people and finding, finding the creative side of things, which was sort of a small part of what I was doing. And when that company sort of fell apart, I went back to waiting tables. And while I was doing that, a friend of mine was working on Ugly Betty, and she was like, "Hey, we have a position as production secretary available. Are you interested?" And I like had no idea what she was talking about. I went and interviewed for it. They offered me the position, and in that same couple of days, I got offered a position doing something similar to what I had been doing before. That offered me a lot of money and an office and an expense account and like a car allowance and like all this crazy shit. And Ugly Betty was offering me like $500 a week. And I remember sitting in my car in front of my house, like for hours trying to figure out what to do. Cause one felt like sort of safe and stable, and the other felt like just sort of throwing it into the wind and seeing what would happen. But at the end of the day, it felt like the risk was worth it in that moment in my life. So I came into this a little later than a lot of people do. I didn't come, I didn't go to college for it. I never took a class. Like I had no education in it, but I immediately knew that I loved it. I had a friend, her name's Dora. She's still around. She was a prop person. She worked on the show, and I started going and visiting her on set and seeing what she was doing and, wandering around the sets. And then I helped shut the show down when it ended. And so I really got to sort of get into the sets, and I was handling things and I was archiving stuff and all of this. And it just was like this spectacular world. And then I ended up like, um, getting into commercials. Like I knew I wanted to be in the art department. I didn't know how to get there. So I started doing that. I started driving decorators around. And I was just at Eclectic the other day in person, which I feel like I don't get to do that much of anymore. And I was talking to Suri and Louise. I don't know. I'm just assuming that most of you know who I'm talking about. And I was telling them the story. There was this decorator. Her name was Kathy Salaji. She's no longer with us, unfortunately, but she invited me to come in with her to Eclectic when it was on 26th Street. And I walked in and just immediately knew that this is what I wanted to spend my life doing. Like Eclectic just like sucked me in, like the amount of history and and like imagination and creative like energy that I felt like I could touch. Like I was allowed to touch everything. It was like being in a museum where you can like lay on the furniture, and like touch the textiles and like move the lamps around and like whatever. And it just, I knew what I wanted to do. And I was never inspired by the end result. I don't feel particularly inspired by various scripts. I'm not I have no idea half the time who my DP is, and that's not where my motivation for my job comes from. My motivation is very much about that moment in Eclectic, right? Like I love talking to a production designer. I love hearing what the vision is and helping to achieve it. But I'm trying to please the people that are there with me in the moment. And I'm like, it's all about daily successes, like asking me for this incredibly random thing that is probably not possible and actually figuring out how to make it happen. Like that's where the fulfillment in my job comes from and the motivation to keep going is just in those like daily tasks, making it happen. Now at SNL, I ended up there very randomly. They were looking for somebody. Someone reached out to a decorator named Sarah McMillan. Mark Knoll was the designer at the time. He reached out to her, asked her if she knew anyone that might be interested. She gave him my name. And now I'm here. Like it was so random, like I wasn't working for it. I wasn't asking for it. It was never on my radar as a place to work, but it turns out that it is like nothing could be better for me than this particular job. I love the intensity of it. I love the not knowing what's coming. I love getting to just be work me for like 2.5 days. We get scripts at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, somewhere between 4 and 6 on Wednesdays. They do script picks between 9 and 10. It's lately been more like 10, 10:30. We get on a Zoom meeting at like 10, 10:30 at night with the writers and the director and all of the people. They tell us what they want. I work until like 2 or 3 in the morning, prepping, sending out emails, pulling ideas, whatever it is. And then I sleep for a couple of hours. And then I get up at like 7 and I start responding to the things that are happening. And then I go in for a scout, usually at like between 10 and 11, depending on who the designer is and what's going on. And then we have Thursday until the prop houses close to like get all of the stuff. And then the sets start coming in usually around 4 or 5 in the afternoon. They build and paint and scenic and all of that stuff overnight. And then I could usually come in about 4 o'clock in the morning on Friday to dress. And we usually have anywhere from 4 to 5 hours to do that full dress. And then we're on camera between 8 and 9. That's like the general schedule. And then most of the time, my Fridays are 18 hours. That is their limit. And then they kick us out. It's 18 hours on paper. I'm sometimes there for longer than that, but that's what it is on paper. And I just love it. It's like being shot out of a cannon every week. The intensity of it and the rush of it is very much interesting to me. I also have 2 kids and a whole life outside of work that I need to attend to. And so the fact that I'm not working Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and most of it, like I don't work really until the kids go to bed on Wednesday. It allows me time to enjoy my life outside of work, you know? So I was in Argentina many years ago, and this man said to me, "You Americans, you live to work, but here we work to live." And I like it really stuck with me. And like this is that balance for me, where I get to do both and put everything into both things. I hope that wasn't like too long-winded, but it's been a
That was perfect. That was great.
yeah.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I love working with you because you like get excited when you see that I'm stressed about how are we going to pull something off. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe they're asking for that mirror that they didn't want to come back. The prop houses are closed. And then you're like, I have the prop house owner's cell phone number on speed dial. Like the truck is already outside. I'm like, okay, great. Like it's so fun. Like I feel like you genuinely light up when there is a problem to be solved and you always solve it. It's so exciting. And then it's like, okay, here's this option, and here's this one. I'm like, wow, what a dream to work with. So I'm glad that SNL found you and you found SNL because I feel like you are exactly the right personality for that kind of intensity. Anyone have questions?
My question was if you have a do you have a favorite celebrity host that you've worked with? Anyone in particular that stands out?
Um, the easier answer is who absolutely drove me crazy, probably, because generally speaking, I really enjoy it.
Mm.
I think one of the things that makes me a good fit at SNL is I generally don't care who they are. If they're particularly nice or welcoming to the crew, that's great. But I think everyone that works there, like one of the things that makes it work is that we're all just there to work, right? Including the host most of the time. Some of them walk in with an entourage of 30 people, and it just is like so sort of off-putting in terms of like the way that impacts the flow of what we're doing. Um, but other people are super down to earth and make it easy. I mean, like Lady Gaga was like super easy, right? Like Stephanie, we got to call her Stephanie, which was bonkers. Billie Eilish was really easy and great. I've found a lot of times that the musicians that host are the easiest because they are not caught up in the acting. People like Adam Driver. If I never have to work with him again, I am totally okay with that. He was a nightmare. He wouldn't let anybody like we know he nobody could be in his eye line, nobody could look at him, nobody could touch a cell phone or a walkie or anything else, and he would like throw fits and walk away if he wasn't getting, if somebody moved wrong. I mean, which is impossible. There's hundreds of us trying to make something happen really fast. Like, get over yourself. That's my opinion. I'm sure as an actor, he has very good reasons for that, but it makes working with him very hard. Um,
Wow.
yeah. One of my absolute favorites of all time was Travis Kelce, which is
What?
probably a little bit more to do with my football obsession, as Cheyenne knows, um,
Yes.
than it did not Taylor Swift, but football. But he was really great and down to earth and personable and like fun to work with. So, does that answer your question?
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
In one of our pre-submitted questions, someone was also asking about how you choose to work with people, like when you're whether it's saying yes to a designer calling you for a project, or also you hiring set deck PAs and shoppers. What are you looking for?
Good question. I Cheyenne is an um, an exception to this rule, but I do have a tendency to work with the people that other people think are very difficult or eccentric and like have, sort of maybe personality disorders. I tend to enjoy them. That's probably like a social work background thing. I, there are definitely people that I will like, I will never work with again, for sure. I have those people in my head, but I have I think set myself up. Like for the most part, when somebody reaches out to me to work with me, it's because, we've developed a relationship. I certainly get new people that call me occasionally, but I'll work with anyone for the most part. As far as hiring like assistants and shoppers and PAs and stuff, I have my go-to people. It's really about the ability to communicate and them to understand my language. Like if I'm asking for something, if I'm asking them to go find a thing or do a thing, like, we have to understand. I mean, obviously I have my own aesthetic that has to adjust to various designers and the project that we're on. But being able to develop sort of a shorthand so they don't have to micromanage anyone else's job is kind of the key for me. So a lot of times, a lot of the people that I hire in those, not PAs necessarily, but shoppers and assistants are people that I have worked for in the past or that I would work for on another job. Like we call each other. And there's just a level of respect that makes it easy, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know
I
if that was
totally get
even an
that.
answer.
Yeah, I mean, I've even been doing that. I have been working pretty exclusively as a production designer for couple years now, but with the slowdown, I am also calling other people and like, hey, like, can I come be your set deck buyer this week? And
Hmm.
it's so much fun. I think it's also fun to have that trade back and forth, like
Yeah.
uh, being in a leadership role and then also working for that same person later. I think
Yeah.
it becomes kind of a fun learning experience just being on both sides of that with the same person.
Yeah. I do think too, just like knowing as many aspects of the industry as possible is super helpful. I was just talking to there's going to be sort of a change of leadership at the film units when we go back after we're on break because of the Olympics at the moment. And I was talking to the new sort of head guy about how like I'd love to just come and hang out, in the background. I went to dress rehearsal a couple of weeks ago and really saw a lot that I hadn't really experienced before because I don't spend time at the live show. And I was just talking to him about maybe just sort of hanging around and watching and like seeing how it all works because I think the better I understand how the ultimate show has to work, the more I understand the decisions they're making because sometimes it feels like they're trying to make me do my job with a hand tied behind my back. But there's almost always a reason for it that's like five steps out that I don't understand. And so I feel like if I get a better understanding of how the show runs in general, like I could probably be better at my job.
Love that. I admire that kind of tenacity and also curiosity. I feel like that's a big common thread, even beyond the art department, but just people who work in film who find success. I think they're all curious people and always want to learn more. And I'm curious to hear from you about your path to where you are now. You have this confidence in who you're working with and the people around you. But because you came in so blind and from a totally different world, how was that for you, learning on the job and just kind of building that confidence and experience along the way?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't come in with any preconceived notions about how it was going to look or what it was supposed to be like. I wasn't, you know, I- so like I was married for a very long time to a musician, and she was very much like the motivation to create is like coming from in here, right? And like she has to do it in order to feel satisfied in her life, which I really admire. I don't have that. That's not what's driving me. I think that's sort of part of what the early part of the story is that like I didn't this wasn't like a lifelong dream situation. I didn't know what I wanted to do, that I wanted to do this as a little kid or, in high school or college even. So I think it allowed me to just focus on the like technical sort of, that side of the job, and getting it done in the most efficient way possible. I learned from some really great people. One of the other decorators on the film unit is someone I drove as PA. Like she was part of my like learning process, and now like she sometimes works for me. You know, I just I don't think for me it was helpful to not have any ideas about what it was supposed to look like. I just saw from the inside how it needed to work in order to get it done, I guess.
And that's good advice. I've actually been having some conversations with people who are not in film about this idea of like the pressure that we put on ourselves and how that makes everything so much harder and expectations. And if you approach problems like there's no stakes and you just kind of try to mentally remove that pressure and expectation, I find that I can actually solve the problem so much better. It's like just removing that and being like, oh, this doesn't even matter. If I fail, who cares? This is not my regular job. This is not my goals and whatever. And just removing those stakes, then I end up doing so much better. And this is something that I've very, very recently learned, at least about myself. And I've been trying to figure out how to kind of have that mentality even when there are stakes and when it does matter, but just trying
Yeah.
to approach things. I mean, I think it's also nice. It feels just like you kind of break things down into smaller goals. And whereas I feel like it can be really overwhelming when you're like, oh my God, I have to put together this whole sketch in a few hours. But it sounds like you also break things down into like very individual little goals and successes,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is great.
Yeah. I mean, looking at the whole picture is your job.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
Which
yes.
is why like people have asked me like, have you thought about, moving into production design or art director or anything like that? And the answer is no. It's not the job I want, because I think that it includes a lot of the aspects of the job that I don't enjoy. Um, and this especially at SNL, like I don't do budgets, guys. I don't have to sit down and have production meetings. I'm not doing any of that. Like nobody is, it just, a lot of the stuff that I found really sort of tedious about decorating and like the regular television world is not part of what I do now. I mean, I have to do some version of it on commercials, which is what I do when I'm not at SNL, generally speaking. I absolutely hate commercials, but they pay the bills and I get to work with fun people. Um, yeah, I don't know. I really do think that it was just like one day after another that like led here. There was just never a goal. I was never trying to get anywhere except be good at my job in any given day. And then I just like am here now. I can very much have imposter syndrome about how I got there. I really can't tell you, but I passionately love my job. There's no doubt about that. I feel like Gabrielle, I feel like were like waving a little while ago. Did you have something you wanted to say or ask?
I had a question. Uh,
Go.
I mean, I love hearing your story and the way you work, and I was just wondering, it sounds very hectic and can get very chaotic. So I was just wondering if you have any specific ways that you stay organized.
Excellent question. Um, like I don't have my bag in here, but I want to just like show you a picture. I mean, a like page in my notebook. It's very I so when we get a script, like I go through it before we get on the call and I make a list of what I think is necessary, any specifics. At SNL, like I'm the decorator for the first part of the day and then I become the prop master and I have to pay attention to what the individual like and sometimes very hero props are. Sometimes I have to do those things simultaneously depending on how big it is. I'm responsible for talking to any of the prop builders or prop makers, anything like that I need. And then so my crew is not 52. My crew is local one. So that it's a stagehand union. So it works it works differently. They can kind of do anything. They put up the walls and then they hang the pictures and then they, and they lay the card and they do. So um, it means that I have to be very specific about what I need from everyone. So at night after we've had our call, I go through and I make this very tedious list. Hold on one second.
Yeah.
Sorry. Life. We make this very detailed list. So I go through each set and I line out what I think we might have in stock, and that if we don't have it in stock, we have to buy it. So we have a pretty extensive shop, and we have access to props that exist on other NBC shows sometimes too. Anything that shoots in 30 Rock is kind of fair game. Um, and I have these two amazing guys. They're shoppers. Their names are Jim and Bobby Heening. And Jimmy Heening has been on SNL for 35 years. He's been an outside prop person for a majority of that time. So he is like I don't even, they're so efficient and good at their jobs, but I also know the difference between um, what they can buy and what they can't, because like some things like require like a creative eye that they don't necessarily have. They're very like functional, right? So I make these lists that have those things that are like what we might have in stock, what we need to buy, and then I line out things that I'll be responsible for specifically, and then any props and any graphics, because I include the graphics people in my lists, and then I make a list of rentals. So then in the morning, I talk to the guys in the morning, I go through the purchase list and sort of send them on their way, and then I pay attention to the rentals and get that done as quickly as possible. It's like the organization is the lists are key. Like I refer back to those lists a lot throughout the day. I have sort of a shop assistant that prints it out, and he will highlight anything he doesn't think we have or is concerned about or needs like creative direction on, you know. And then we go through that. We have different times of the day for that. Also, the production designer that I'm currently working with, she's new to me this year, and it has offered an opportunity for she and I to come up with our own way of doing things and our own like communication from the get-go. So we also meet up in the afternoon and go over everything and make sure there's nothing that like she needs to talk to me about or see. And then after we were done on Friday, we sit down and we go over it, like what went well, what didn't go well, where do we think the like bottlenecks are happening, how can we fix those, like, who do I need to communicate with differently or at a different time of day, like do I need to prioritize this person sooner in my day so that they can get their job done, is there someone that she should be talking to that would take a little bit of something off my plate when she has time. Like we're very communicative and it's like amazing. Uh yeah. And then there's a
So nice
moment.
to hear. Just
Yeah.
it's nice to hear that people are doing that, especially on SNL. I'm sure it's easy to
Yeah.
just kind of go into the flow of the next week, but that sounds so helpful, this kind of
It is.
relationship you're building.
Yeah. I mean, at some point we won't need those conversations probably because we'll have, established all of it. But even now, I mean, it's grown and changed pretty rapidly. I mean, you have no choice. It's like trial by fire every week, right? Um, but there's always a moment when I wake up on Friday in the middle, it's like the middle of the night, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning or 2:30 in the morning or whatever it is. And I've only had a couple of hours of sleep and I completely panic. Like, what did I forget? The good news is I can usually fix it if I did actually forget something. um, and a couple times a season, I have a moment when we're dressing where I'm like, this is the one. This is the one we can't pull off. This is it. It's not happening this week. It's not going to happen. I've ruined everything. And it has yet to actually happen that way. We've pulled it off every week, regardless, because I work with amazing people.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we can all relate to that panic. Like, even on features, like, we get down to like it's the day before the first day of filming, and I'm like, it's not going to happen. We're not making this movie. But
Hmm.
it's amazing how you just keep barreling through, and then at the end, you're like, oh, we did it. That
Yeah.
was awesome.
I love problem solving. I mean, we
Yeah.
were talking about that earlier. Like, give me a problem to solve. And like, I'm surrounded by so many talented people that like, we did the Stranger Things pre-take tape a couple weeks ago. I don't know if anybody watched it, but we recreated the Dangerous Minds classroom. We did OJ Simpson White Bronco police chase. We did the cafe from Sex and the City. We did the Wheeler's living rooms from Stranger Things, and then we had to do Iceland, standing on a cliff in Iceland. And like all of those things had to happen at once. And I love a one for one. Like I really enjoy trying to recreate something, especially in that kind of turnaround. But there's this very specific architectural feature in the Wheeler's living room. There was like they're, I can't think of the word right now. The thing that's like in a railing. What are those called? Anybody? You have a
Mm,
railing, and then you have the wood things, spindles.
oh, yeah.
Spindles?
Partition?
Spindles?
No?
What did you say,
What was that?
Jacob?
Is that a partition?
Yeah, I mean,
Mm,
it
Doesn't
was
sound
sort of a
right.
yeah.
partition made out of these really long spindles that were made up of spheres. And it was just like there was no buying it. You know what I mean? So we had to we have a amazing carpenter named Josh. And we sort of figured out how we could buy different, my brain is like, uh, um, the thing that goes on top. Anyway, whatever. We bought these like wood things and he like cut them down and pieced them together and like made the thing. And like I love those moments, like having somebody that is going to work with me creatively to solve a problem that feels absolutely unsolvable in the amount of time that we have. And it looked great.
There was one of oh, Morgan has a question. Yes. Thank you, Morgan.
Hi. I guess I know that like the stage unit is like very old school. And sorry, I'm on set. I know the stage unit is like super old school and like don't they like fax everything to their shops and stuff? Like how do you guys work like
Do
versus
you mean the
that?
live show?
Yeah.
Um, there's no faxing, nothing's old school. I mean, that's actually, I mean, I guess that's not entirely true, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, a lot of my local one crew also works the live show.
Mhm.
So I know that they that they appreciate the process on our side. I because there's a lot that happens that there's a lack of communication on the live show around what's going on. I think like certain people know and everybody else is just there to take orders, and that's fine. That's the way that it works, but it doesn't really translate to us. It did at the beginning. Listen, these guys did not want to listen to me at all when I first started. They were like, "Who is this? We don't have to listen to her. She's not one of us. She's not our, they were just like not into it. I really had to win them over. And now I don't run into that ever with them anymore. And it's a really great relationship. I love my guys. But it was not like that at first. And that's probably the old school part, right? They're like, we don't have to listen to her, we're just gonna do our thing or whatever. But they're not really like that anymore. Most of my crew is pretty young too.
So if you have people who are doing the live show and yours too, how does
Mhm.
that crossover work?
I mean, oh God, you guys, their contract absolutely sucks. They only have to get, I think it's 4 hours of turnaround. Um, so they and then their clock starts over, so they just work continuously. Like they leave us at whatever time we're done, they get a couple of hours, and then they're back over at the live show doing it again. I mean, there's not a lot of crossover other than there's not a lot of crossover. I mean, it just doesn't, they are, I don't know how they do it. But their job over there is less, it's more moving walls. It's less like moving sets in and out is what their job is over there, and less hanging paintings and dressing things.
Anyone else have
Yeah, the
any
live show is
questions?
still a little bit of a mystery to me. Oh, Chloe.
Hi, thank you for being with us. What I was just curious, like what the learning curve was like for you, because I know SNL is kind of a very unique workflow as opposed to other things. So what was it like when you first came on and getting used to the schedule and the flow, and like were people helpful or were they like,
Yeah,
kind of
that's good.
figure it out on
Yeah.
your own?
It's a good question. I mean, it was terrifying. I can remember saying to Kim Kachugian is one of the other decorators, and I remember saying to her, like, do you just feel like you're going to throw up like all the time while you're here? Does that like ever go away? And she was like, no, not really. It's just sort of there, and you get used to it, because it is intense. I don't actually feel that way very often anymore. It certainly happens. Um, the most difficult part really was the change in the way that the union difference works. Like a combo guy is like, they call them combo, right? It means that they do everything that's not grip and electric that like a 52 person might do. They do all of that. Um, so the same guy that's putting up a wall is the same guy that's going to help me dress a shelf an hour later. So learning who was good at what, and who I could call on to do the finer detail things, who had an eye for, I mean, some of these guys, you ask them to dress a shelf. I mean, and you're like, have you ever been in a house before? But that's just not what they do, right? So you have to sort of figure out like who is good at what, and like who is good at taking like my creative instruction. Some people are better than that at that than others. So that was sort of the hardest part for me. The schedule is not something you ever get used to. Um, but I've learned to just nap for a couple of days and be okay with it. I usually come home on Friday after an 18-hour day, and I still stay up for like 3 or 4 hours because I'm just so amped from everything we just did. Um, Yeah, it was people were very helpful. I mean, everybody was, giving helpful instruction, but at the same time, everybody's moving so fast, that it was really a lot of observation, and a lot of asking very pointed questions, versus waiting for people to tell me what needed to be done or how. Um, Yeah, it is a very different system. I sometimes struggle to shift back when I go and like work on a TV show or something. It's like I forget who does what, because I don't, I can't just ask any guy in a black shirt.
Right. Thank you.
Hmm.
I think that was great advice, though. One about asking pointed questions and not just waiting for someone to explain things to you. I think that's great. And then something that we've talked a lot about in art craft is knowing your own strengths and knowing the strengths of people on your team. And yeah, not every person who can put up walls can know how to decorate a shelf.
Yeah.
And also if you're a person who knows how to decorate a shelf very well, it doesn't mean that you have to be very good at putting up walls. Like there are jobs for everyone. And it's important to remember that about yourself and about your team. So I thought that was a great point. Ava, I think you had a question a second ago too.
I know you touched about, also, thank you so much for being here. This is so amazing to hear you. You touched on this a little bit earlier, but I just wanted to ask kind of with the intense timeline and turnarounds, like what are the physical elements that you're prioritizing when you're like shopping and dressing or decorating and decorating?
Yeah. I mean, because we're moving so fast, like most of our sets, I'm not thinking about like light switches or, fire, smoke detectors or, there's a lot of elements that we add to sets when we're doing like a typical episodic show where we're really trying to make sure that all of the subconscious indicators are there, that it's a real environment, right? Like we're always thinking about those little things that people will never notice, and that's exactly what we want, right? Just to like sell the environment to them. So I have to do less of that because there's just not time to pay attention to it. Every once in a while, we have a bunch of like stick on fake light switches and things that we'll add sometimes. We'll do stuff like that. But you have to know like where the line is, right? Like sometimes I want to like build those layers in a set and really bring the character alive, and I want to be able to do those things. And sometimes we get there. It depends on the set. Every once in a while, like a couple weeks ago, I think, was it Stranger Things? It might have been where we weren't on camera until 2:30 in the afternoon. So it felt like I had a whole extra day um, to do things, and those moments are really great to work on the finer details. But most of the time, you just have to make sure that the broader picture is there. I do a lot of standing in sets with the DP and the director. We like stand there and they say to me, this is where the camera is going to be, and I need depth or texture in this direction so that I can get what we need out of this shot. And so there's a lot of like communication with them in order to, because it's usually they're not. Last week was different. I don't with the Viking thing because you really saw 360, but it was one room. But generally speaking, when you're doing multiple sets, they're only seeing, they're seeing this direction and then they're maybe turning around on it. It depends. So there's a lot of collaboration with my director and my DP to figure out what to prioritize so that I'm not dressing things that are never going to be seen. But that has come with time. This is my sixth season at SNL. So, and it's my third season with the same director, and I've had the same DP the whole time. So I've, developed relationships, with them, and we've figured out what we need to do. Like the director and I sit down every Thursday usually after the rewrite comes out, which is another SNL, um, fuckery, but, sorry. But we sit down and go through the prop list because he often has ideas that are not in the script that he would like to have available. He's a really big on having like a table of things for, a cast member to choose from for their character. So I've learned that I have to go to him and have that conversation. I don't know if I'm still answering your question, but um, the collaboration between the different, also the lighting director, he and I have a great relationship. It's not a gaffer just because of the union difference. He's a lighting designer, but I'll stand with him in front of the monitor on Friday morning and talk about how, things are being hidden or obscured by light, or things that we don't really want to see are being highlighted in a way that might not work. And we sort of are able to work together to like all of us collectively come up with what looks best on camera, which is unique, I think, to SNL.
Definitely. Thank you.
Mhm.
Someone had also asked if there is a situation you can point to where you're really impressed with the last minute problem solving, where there's like a chaotic moment or you're like, I have no idea how this is gonna come together, and afterwards you're like, damn, we really figured that out.
It's the first thing that pops into my head is something that actually happened before this season even started. We were doing some pre-tapes before the season started that were evergreen, so there's no host involved, and we went up and shot at the Douglas House, and they were grilling, and they had asked for some very specific things to be on the grill. And then at the last moment, they were like, I'm sorry, this may not be even that great of an answer, but they asked for like kebabs of like vegetables, right? And like for whatever reason that had just never crossed, that had never made it on a list. It had never been part of a conversation. And I didn't think of it because there were 700,000 other things going on in, in a short period of time. So I went to breakfast and I took coffee stirrers and turned them into the skewers and used things like radishes and the tomatoes and like anything that could possibly serve as a vegetable, and made these skewers and put them on the grill, and like everybody was like, where did those come from? It was just like a fun moment of like, I'm up there. I like dragged one of my guys up the hill to breakfast, and we're like, shoving, pieces of salmon on that might look like a vegetable onto coffee stirrers, trying to, solve a problem in the moment. And like that, I love that kind of stuff. I really do. I also, one of the things that comes up for us a lot is that they will ask for like the most random prop, like in the moment. They'll be like, I was thinking like in the scene that we're doing 20 minutes from now, it would be really great to have a giant dead fish. And then, but I like know who to call on. And like, we have a really great network of people at 30 Rock too, because these guys have all worked over there forever. So they'll call their people at all the other shows and find out who has the like dead fit, the giant fish in their prop room. And then they like race it over there in an Uber, and we solve things that way. It's my favorite part of the job. So that just the skewer thing is the thing that came up. I remember one of the guys looking at me and being like, he was like really impressed, and feeling like, yes, like I impressed one of them. This is it. Like I've done it for the day. That was like, okay, I can go home and enjoy my night because I've done my job.
Yes. I know that feeling. It's a good
Yeah,
feeling.
yeah,
And yeah, you mentioned Douglas House. Do you
yeah.
want to explain to people what that is?
What Douglas House is. I mean, I don't know if anybody else has ever shot there, but it's a giant house with multiple like outbuildings on a nice piece of land, and the entire thing is meant to be for production. So they're set up for that. They have like, for instance, they have various cabinet fronts that you can put on the cabinets in the kitchen. There's little things all over the house that you're allowed to move around. And we don't get to shoot on location very often at SNL at this point, but it's kind of an all-in sort of place. I can't remember what town it's in, but it's not too far. It's like Westchester, I guess, right? I think.
I don't remember where it is. I filmed there once for a commercial, and I loved that there's a little office and they have portraits of all of the SNL hosts who have filmed
Hmm.
there. I was like, wow, these people were here. It's just it's open to other productions, but it's specifically like part of this SNL system. And I just love hearing about all of the relationships that SNL has through 30 Rock and through the city. Like it's such a big nebulous of people and
Yeah.
support to make all of this chaos come together at the last minute, which I
We
think is so fun.
are, yeah, like the prop houses are waiting for us, which is like you don't usually get that, I guess. But um state supply, generally speaking, leaves a chunk of time on Thursday afternoon where they're not sending anybody else's orders out so that they know they can prioritize ours. That's something that they choose to do. It's not something they're forced to do. Um, my person from Prop and Spoon emails me on Wednesdays and is like, let me know what you need tonight, and I'll say, this is what I'm trying to do. And she'll go and photograph things that she thinks might work for what I'm doing, and send them to me. So she sort of does like, what a decorator would sort of normally do to present to a designer. She sort of does the first round of that for me, if I ask her to. Um, and I'm trying to think who else had like who else sort of prioritizes things. But it's amazing that, I have a lot of, like Cheyenne said, I have a lot of personal cell phone numbers that I try not to use unless it's a real emergency. But, I have absolutely called people at 8 o'clock at night. Surrey went in and opened Eclectic to get us a doll, a like old broken doll that we needed once at like 8:30 at night. Um, so, we do have this, it's like everybody's on board, which is really great. And then there's like Acme, who's like, do you know we have other things going on here? I can't just be paying attention to your changes all the time, And it's like, okay, all right. Everybody's different. So I have to know how to manage that, right? Like I'm super careful with my Acme orders at this point because I don't want to piss them off. So I try to be super careful and not make 100,000 changes to that particular order. Whereas like Bridge or Prop and Spoon or Eclectic will sort of accommodate my like haphazard. Now I need this. Now I need that. Can you add this? Can you take that off? Kind of, frantic moment and on Thursday afternoons because we get like a rewrite and like whole things will change, and so there's like a real moment of panic in the afternoon usually.
Yeah, if you guys were in art crafts, then you know a lot of these prop houses, right? Prop and Spoon, Eclectic. You guys met Surrey. It's such a great machine. I now watch SNL and I try and play the game of which prop house did this come from? Like, oh,
Yeah.
that artwork's from Acme. I know that
Mhm.
bridge sofa. So you guys can play that game too. I think people
Yeah.
think that SNL only has stock, but you guys are still out there
Yeah.
in the world, prop houses shopping a lot.
Very much. I mean, last week for the Viking skit, I got up in the morning and I went to Eclectic and I spent the entire first part of my day at Eclectic pulling everything that we needed in person because it just was digging through their website is like a nightmare. So it was just much easier to go because there's half a room. I mean, like half a floor is all the stuff that I needed. So I just pulled it and it was like much more efficient to do that way. We also like we have this building. There's two stages, um, and then there's our shop and the construction shop and the lighting cage and all of that. And then upstairs are all these offices, and these people are producers and coordinators and all of those people, and they all have an office, right? And we, sorry, I just heard something happen outside. Um, we are allowed to go to the NBC Asset Center also is a um, resource that we have. It is getting easier to use. Historically, it was very difficult because it was so far away. It was difficult to have somebody there to like pull from. That's getting easier, but we decorate their offices from the Asset Center every year. So the offices are full of furniture and smalls and lamps and stuff that we can use. Same with the dressing rooms, like the dressing room, the green room. We actually film in the host room um, more frequently than you would think. I've had to turn that into so many different things. I can't even tell you. There's a cafeteria. Our cafeteria becomes a set frequently, especially when there's a third unit shooting. So there'll be like one in each of the stages, and then the like third unit gets shoved into some room, whether it's the host dressing room or the cafeteria or some other space. We've shot in the parking lot, we've shot in the loading bay. You name it. I've had to turn something into a space that makes no sense into something else. But we can pull from all of that stuff that's there. So it's not just what's in our shop.
Any other questions? Anybody? Elizabeth?
Elizabeth?
Hi, so I'm sure after doing 6 seasons, you've probably done at least one of pretty much everything. But like kind of in the back of your mind, is there some kind of set that like you're kind of itching to do, or like a kind of one for one recreation of something?
Something from like The Crown or Gilded Age or something like period and specific would be awesome. Like we don't get to do that stuff very often. The closest I got was we did the Queen's Gambit when what's her name? I can't even remember her name. This is how much I don't care. So the specific host. But we had to recreate the Paris like chess tournament. And that's the closest I ever got to doing a set of that nature. And just funny, like sort of insider story. We rented mostly from Knoll, which is almost all antiques, right? And for that particular set, because there really wasn't another option. And we managed to damage almost everything we rented from them. And when we were so then we, when we were packing up, there was a console table that was like set aside because it had been slightly damaged. And we were going to try to get one of our people to fix it so that they wouldn't charge us, $5,000 to fix a ding on a table. And it was actually a 52 guy. One of the 52 guys saw it and thought it was trash. And he took it out back to the dumpster and then it wouldn't fit in the dumpster. So he took it back out and put it on the ground and kicked all of the legs off of it and then put the pieces of the antique console table into the dumpster. And thankfully, the dumpster didn't leave before someone realized what had happened. They were able to track what had happened on all of the all the cameras. But we had to figure out how to reconstruct this antique table from the pieces that were in the dumpster. I spent many, many, many hours on the phone with the owner. It doesn't like run Newell anymore, but his son does. His name is Jake. And I spent like hours on the phone with him negotiating how we were gonna not owe them $12,000 in damages.
That was painful to listen to. I was like, oh no. And then the legs. Oh God.
Yeah, it was devastating.
Other questions? Emily?
Please, sorry, I didn't even think about that. But building off of that, I'm sure that's not the only occurrence that someone has like broken something or something has gotten damaged. Or just with people maybe not being so careful with set deck and props. Um, how does that responsibility kind of like get divided? Because like I feel like sometimes as like a set decorator or designer, you feel like you are responsible for that item, but you can't control
Mhm.
how everyone interacts with it. So
Yeah,
it's like where does responsibility fall? And then also like what's the aftermath for like that person who maybe was negligent, if that makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
It very rarely comes back on a specific person. I mean, in that case, in the case with the Knoll table, we had it on video, but he continued to work at SNL for the next like 4 years. He was ultimately let go for something else, actually. But so like last week, we had some signs from Let There Be Neon. And one of them went back damaged. I'm always on those emails, but generally speaking, it doesn't come back to me. If there is something really sensitive, I I may say something about being careful with it. Generally speaking, I trust my guys. I mean, we don't get most of the time if there is a damage issue, it's from the truck. It's a Teamster issue, and I think that that's true on television shows a lot too. Um, they really they're not thinking. I don't know what they're doing actually, but a vast majority of the damage that we see doesn't happen on set or by our dressers. It happens when it gets on the truck. And the teams, no, I'm not going to say that out loud. I'm not going to tell you that. But so the Teamsters kind of get a pass on that most of the time. I've never really seen that come down on them. So we pay the bill. Sometimes they argue, sometimes we offer to fix it ourselves. Yeah. I don't know.
Other questions, Jacob?
Are there any cast members that you've grown particularly fond working with over the years?
Um, a lot of my favorites are gone. One of my absolute favorites was Pete Davidson. Like he brought so much to what was happening. I can't tell you how many takes I ruined because I couldn't hold my laughter in because he was just so funny. There was something about his energy and what he was bringing to it that like I just really enjoyed. I really like Ashley right now. She's kind of incredible. I think she's risen really fast. And then there are people like Keenan who will forever be humble and wonderful to work with. He is easily the absolute easiest, most pleasant person you could possibly have on set from our cast, anyone that I've ever met. Um, yeah, I mean, if I had to choose one, it would probably be Keenan. I mean, and he nails it every time. You don't have to block a lot of time for anything he needs to do. Like he just nails it immediately. So that's a pleasure also.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. I really liked Chris Red too. I miss him. He and I would chat.
That's nice to hear that Keenan is so nice to work with and he's been there for so long.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like I am not, I don't think of myself as an inherently creative person. Like if you ask me, I don't think of myself as an artist. I think that people that know me would probably disagree um, with that. But I don't think of myself that way. So I think that I feel really inspired by people that do seem like they've really like mastered their craft, you know? Um, so that I think that that's part of it. Like Ashley and Pete Davidson are probably two really good examples of that in my mind. Like they're just people who are mastering their craft, they really are good at what they do. And I mean, I am probably an artist. I am definitely creative. It just like doesn't feel like I just wouldn't walk into a room and say that, I don't think.
Yeah, but you definitely are still a creative person. Like something else that I appreciate about you is even when we're doing fairly simple sets, like you still really care about every detail. And we play our little games of like what's gonna get cut and like this looks great. We think this is the right choice, but someone else is going to cut this. And I think you still an important thing to note is that you still have taste. It's not like you're such a technical person that, sometimes technical people really can't see how a room comes together and can't
Yeah.
have a vision for something, whether it's furniture coming together or shelf decor. But you are great at that. So I think that also takes a lot of creativity
Yeah, I
that
mean,
is inherent.
I guess it's more like I am not amazing at any one thing, right? Like I don't have that thing. I'm not creating one type of art that I'm like super passionate about or anything. I'm just like I'm pretty good at a lot of things and I am like pretty crafty and I'm pretty like I'm good at those types of things and the details and like if you need me to make a flower arrangement, I can do that. Is it going to be what it would be if we ordered it from somebody, a flora, somebody that does that? No, probably not, but it will absolutely do the job, right? And like I have made all sorts of custom props at SNL. Like sometimes that ends up falling to us. We did Mario Kart a couple years ago, and I ended up making a lot of the custom props for that, like the bombs and the coins and the feathers and all of the things that are part of the to make the cartoon-y world into the live action world. That was Pedro Pascal. Um, so that's really fun. Like I can do that stuff. I can. Am I the best at it? When am I going to start my own like custom prop situation now? I don't want to do one thing. I want to do all of the things.
I super feel that and relate to that. I want to do all of the things all the time. Well, we only have 13 minutes left. Um, any questions here? Valeria? Yes.
Hello. I was just wondering, we were talking about like the systems you had in place once you do grab a script and kind of,
Mhm.
I feel like you've built a system up and built yourself up for success at that point. But I'm kind of curious if you have any, like what you do on your off days, I guess that keeps you in that kind of space to be able to have that kind of success when you do have the script and everything.
Yeah, I mean, this is something we were talking about earlier also. Like I have two little kids. I mean, they're not actually that little anymore. They're 8 and 11. So I'm starting to get some space in my life to be able to do other things. I do like I went to the Frick with another decorator on Friday, and we were able to just sort of walk around and talk about things and whatever. I don't know that, I'm a pretty plan oriented person in my life in general. I like to have a plan. I've had to teach myself to be okay when the plan changes. I think my job has done a good job of teaching me that it's okay if the plan changes. I still have trouble shifting at times in both my personal and professional life. But the logistics, I enjoy them. I enjoy figuring out what order things need to happen in, and like uh, there's my brain works that way. So you can definitely see it in every aspect of my life. Um, I love a list. I make them all the time. I like to have little check boxes. I really like to check things off my list. I do that at work, and I do that in my personal life. At work, there was a coordinator I worked with very early on. She was the first one to put me in art department on a commercial, and she makes lists with little squares. It's that she then checks off, and I adopted that, and I do it with my work lists, and that's how I sort of calm myself down. Like the more check marks I have, the like calmer I can feel, and then I can like refocus on a detail. I mean, so, I think a lot of that's personality. I mean, I guess some of it's learned, um, but I like to know what's going to happen.
Yeah, that makes sense because there's like so many moving pieces that I was like, I wonder like what your mindset is going into the week. Like every week it's different, you know?
It is, and it's very, I mean, we read the script, so like every season is different. My first season, um, we had a bunch of different directors and things were sort of moving around, and they had fired the decorator mid-season. That was my first season. I came on to replace her, and it had been really contentious when she left, and so I was sort of coming into a situation where everybody was like prepared to hate me, which was a difficult place to be. So I really had to like prove that. But I'm sort of getting off topic for what I was going to say. So my first full season, my director was Mike Diva. He's now the director so there's film unit and there's beast unit. And then for a while there was ghost unit until this season. So Ghost Unit was my unit the whole time until this season. And so the first season, Mike Diva was with us on Ghost Unit, and he is incredible. Like he is just so talented and so creative, and his brain is just like, I absolutely adore him. And we developed a friendship that allowed us to communicate sort of on the side, like via text message, phone calls at 2 o'clock in the morning, like whatever it might be. Um, and so I started to be able to look at the scripts and understand which scripts were probably for him. um, you know, like they gave him most of the music videos. So if there were music video scripts in the bunch that we got, I was going to pay attention to those and sort of pre-prep them in my head. If there were any big moving pieces, like all of the decorators are on a text thread. Like last week, we thought we were going to need to build a ice rink. So everybody thought, contacted their people for that. And then we, put one on hold, we put an entire ice rink on hold. And then like the whole group knew. So whoever got that script already had that piece done. Um, we do the same thing with like when we need a subway car or an airplane or like, theater seats or, these kind of bigger things that you have to figure out. We tend to pre-prep those like bigger items. Sometimes if there's whispers about what's going to happen, we might do a bunch of ordering on Amazon early on Wednesday of things that are difficult to get in store. Um, so, we have sort of developed that. The last couple of years, they moved Mike to the film unit, which is sort of the like big sister, it's like the top of the food chain, for what it's worth. They moved him to the film unit, and I've had a series of different directors since then. Some of them have gone really well, and some of them have not. And but you could sort of read the scripts and know which ones were most likely to land in your lap. So that helps. This year it's a free for all. So what happened over the summer is that they decided to go down to 2 units to just have Film and Beast, but they wanted to keep the Ghost Unit director. And the Ghost Unit director wanted to keep his DP and me. So there are 2 directors and 2 DPs and 2 designers and 2 decorators. And depending on which director gets the skit that week, that group moves with them. The rest of the crew stays the same. So it's just sort of the like head of the snake is like all I can think of, but like, that just that one piece moves back and forth. And then we got a new designer on our side, so which I talked about earlier. So that's been interesting, and then like the other decorator will then help me if I need it. And then if it's her skit, like I'll help her if she needs it. I'm kind of a like, I'm coming in. I'm going to come in and help in whatever way that I can. I just want to work. I just want to be part of it. I don't really care what I do. And like we get paid a kill fee if our unit isn't working. So I'm getting paid, for 30 hours, whether I, get a skid or not. So I'd rather go in and help. So I do. And always have. They didn't like it at first. Everybody's very uncomfortable. And I was like, I don't understand. I'm just here. I'm just another body. Just tell me what you need me to do. And it did I mean, I'm not taking responsibility for a shift in culture necessarily, but I did sort of force myself on people in the first couple of seasons when when my unit was down. And it has meant that like we all really help each other a lot. Like I'm not taking responsibility for that, but it is something that we do now that we didn't do when I first started.
That is nice. Do anyone else have any final questions? Jess, do you have any words of wisdom or advice to people who want to work in set deck, who maybe they're art PAs right now, or maybe they're still trying to break in? Do you have any advice?
I mean, I think stay teachable. Is probably like that is forever true. I feel like that now. I felt like that last week, where if I'm not doing it, I want to be learning about it. I just you can never know enough, you know, and stay like I think stay humble, right? Like I am still like I can't believe I'm doing what I'm doing. I can't believe you're actually paying me to be this person. I, I have, the those are Emmy certificates. Like that's not something I ever thought I was going to have. It was never on my radar. All 3 other decorators at the film units have actual statues right now from the last 3 years. Like who knows what's going to happen next? I don't know. But like literally, it's never been on my radar as something I wanted, needed, or was striving for. It has just happened. And it's like, I don't, it's a very like, I'm not worthy kind of moment, like I don't understand how all of that's happening. It just is. And I don't know. I don't know if that's who I am or how helpful it is to maintain that feeling, but like I'm just here to constantly be better at my job.
I think that's great advice. Absolutely. And I was a little bit on a winter rant before we started recording, but I just want to go back to that for a second because there's a lot of ArtCraft alumni here today, and I've talked to a lot of ArtCraft alumni very recently. I feel like a lot of people have been reaching out, feeling like things are slow and people asking the same questions of like, how do I keep up the momentum? Like I just had a cool job and like I want to keep up that momentum. Like how do I do that again? Or like, hey, I'm not working right now. Like, how do I get a job? Like, help me. And I just want to
Yeah.
reassure people that it's hard, but it's okay. And it is winter. Like
Yeah.
winter has always been slow for film and especially now with just how the film industry is, it feels particularly slow. February was also when pilot season used to start, and we just don't have that anymore. There
Yeah.
are cultural shifts in the industry, but there is still a regular pattern happening of winter is slow. So
Yeah.
even if you're sitting there seeing other people work and you're like, what the hell? It's okay. And I also feel it. And it's tough. Like right now, there's, festival announcements. Sundance just happened and South by, and it's like, damn, like all these other people, like they're having momentum, like how do I get that? Like it's okay. And also just take winter to rest. I know we all still have to pay our bills, but uh now is not the time to feel super stressed about getting the next job. Um there will be more opportunities and also the tax credits in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania are great right now. They're building tons of big studio spaces here, so it's okay. And I just wanted to say that because I feel like a lot of people have been coming to me with the same stress. You're not alone. And it's also very normal, whether you're experiencing your career or you're just starting out, it is normal for you to not have a lot of momentum, especially when it is -14 out today.
Yeah. When you can't shoot New York for New York, like so much of what we shoot here has a exterior element because of where we are, and nobody is out there. You can't do it. It's not reasonable. We were talking about doing a exterior a couple of weeks ago. Oh no, we were doing an interior that was too small to have the crew inside, and they had to find a different location because you just can't have people stand outside when it's 10 degrees. So that does like absolutely factor in to the amount of work we can do this time of year. Just holding just space for people is really difficult this time of year.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's all for now. I hope that everyone's gonna go watch Benito Bowl today. I love live productions. I love spectacle, so I'm super excited for the Super Bowl today. Those dancing mocha pots on the Olympics on Friday. Who else watched
Yeah.
the dancing mocha pots?
Yes. My
Yes.
favorite
Okay,
part of
take
the
hands.
opening ceremony was the subtitles. Did you notice those?
Oh, what about them? What do you mean?
They were gibberish. And it was awesome. So we just read them out loud as they were coming up on the screen, and it made it just like an extra level of entertaining.
Yes. See, live, you never know what's going to happen.
Hmm.
Yes. Okay. Well, I hope that everyone stays warm and I hope that you found today inspiring. We'll have this on our YouTube channel sometime in the next near future. And Jess, thank you so much for being here. I think this was great.
You're
Really
welcome.
appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yes,
Of
thank you so
I
much.
course.
still
Thank you
the
so
imposter
much.
system doesn't the imposter syndrome just does not go away. But I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, no, you were great. I was inspired. I was like, oh, yes. I miss you. I miss hearing you talk. I love working with you. You always it's hard to be in a stressed out mood around you. And
Oh,
yeah,
I
thanks for
appreciate
all
that.
of your perspective today. I appreciate it.
Yes, always.
All right. Well, everyone have a great day, and I hope to see you all at our next AMA. And also soon we're going to be announcing some spring events, and then we'll have something to look forward to. Like, oh my God, when it's warm, we're all going to be together again, and it's going to be fantastic. So I hope to see you all around again soon, and have a great day.